Episode C, the Mesoamerican Model. Last time, we examined the Heartland Model. This week, we'll scrutinize the Mesoamerican Model to demonstrate its inaccuracies, reinforcing my claim that neither model withstands scrutiny. Part 1, Introduction. John E. Page, a former apostle under Joseph Smith, stated in 1848, "All who are familiar with the Book of Mormon are probably aware of the fact that the whole account of the history of the forefathers of the American Indians, called the Nephites, Lamanites, and Zoramites, is confined to Central America entirely until the 394th page." Fair scholar Mark Wright notes that Alma 63-4 describes a migration of 5,400 men, with their wives and their children, from the land of Zarahemla to the land northward. This implies a total migration of 16,000 to 22,000 individuals. However, there is no archaeological or DNA evidence supporting such a large migration from Mesoamerica into North America. The indigenous peoples of North America are known to have arrived via the Beringian land bridge over 12,000 years ago, long before the Book of Mormon timeline. This lack of evidence raises significant doubts about the historical accuracy of the Book of Mormon's claims. As discussed in a previous video, the Mesoamerican model encounters fundamental issues right from the start. One major problem is the claim that Lehi and Nephi were promised a land that had not been inhabited by others before them, as stated in 2 Nephi 1:8-9. This claim is flawed because, by the time the supposed Nephites arrived, the land was already occupied by another group, the Jaredites, who were said to have arrived after the Tower of Babel. Additionally, the Olmec and Mixozoquian civilizations, which thrived in Mesoamerica, had been established around 1200 to 1500 BCE, centuries before the time period attributed to the Book of Mormon peoples. This further undermines the claim that the land was uninhabited prior to their arrival. Part 2, the locations. R. Tripp Evans, in his 2004 article, Romancing the Maya, Mexican Antiquity in the American Imagination 1820-1915, notes, for the first time since Spain's expulsion from the region, accurate information concerning Mexico's pre-Columbian past was available to Americans in a readable and inexpensive format. Evans refers to John Lloyd Stevens' influential work, Incidents of Travel in Central America, Chiapas, and Yucatan. This brings us to a crucial point. Ted D. Stoddard argues, had his book appeared in print before Joseph Smith published the Book of Mormon, anti-Book of Mormon critics would have had a field day in postulating that Joseph Smith relied heavily on John Lloyd Stevens for much of the scheme, content, and geography of the Book of Mormon. As things have turned out, however, Stevens' writings go a long way in supporting Joseph Smith's declaration that he translated, rather than authored, the Book of Mormon. I contend that Stoddard's argument is fundamentally flawed. If Joseph Smith had indeed had access to Stevens' book before publishing the Book of Mormon, it is unlikely that he would have made so many glaring errors and anachronisms in the text, issues we will address in detail later. Stoddard's assertion fails to account for the numerous inconsistencies in the Book of Mormon that would not align with the detailed and accurate information provided by Stevens. In the Mesoamerican model, the proposed landing site for Lehi's party is on the Pacific Ocean side of the continent, rather than the Atlantic Ocean, which would be the logical landing point given a journey from Israel. In contrast, the Heartland model positions the landing along the Atlantic Ocean side, aligning more closely with what one would expect from such a voyage. For Lehi's party to reach the proposed Pacific landing site, they would have had to navigate an exceptionally long and improbable route. They would either have had to circumnavigate the bottom of South America, an arduous and highly unlikely journey, or traverse the Pacific Ocean. Alternatively, another model suggests a landing in Chile, which still presents significant navigational and logistical challenges. This discrepancy highlights a critical flaw in the Mesoamerican model's proposed route and raises serious questions about its feasibility. While the Book of Mormon does provide references to the Sea West, Sea East, Sea North, and Sea South, there are notable discrepancies in their described locations. These issues might seem minor to some, but they are significant enough to warrant attention. Specifically, the Sea South is described as being northwest of the Sea West rather than directly south. Additionally, the Sea East is situated more to the southeast, and is significantly distant from the proposed locations. These inconsistencies pose challenges to aligning the Book of Mormon's geography with a coherent and accurate model. The Book of Mormon describes a land northward and a land southward, but these areas more closely resemble what we would expect to find to the west and east, rather than true north and south. Even if we accept the proposed Mesoamerican locations, significant issues persist. Numerous temples have been discovered and excavated throughout the Mesoamerican region, yet none of these resemble the Hebrew temple described in the Old Testament. According to the Torah, there was to be only one temple, yet Mesoamerican cultures had numerous temples scattered throughout their territories, which directly contradicts this biblical mandate for Hebrews. If Joseph Smith had knowledge of these discrepancies before he had access to John Lloyd Stevens' book, it raises a crucial question. Would he have adjusted the Book of Mormon to address these inconsistencies? Throughout Mesoamerica, numerous glyphs from various civilizations, including the Maya and the Aztec, have been discovered. However, none of these glyphs bear any resemblance to Egyptian hieroglyphs, or to what might be considered Reformed Egyptian, the writing system claimed to be used by the peoples in the Book of Mormon. In fact, there is no evidence anywhere in the world of a Reformed Egyptian writing system existing at any point in history. Let's examine the evidence that unequivocally disproves the notion that the events of the Book of Mormon took place in Mesoamerica. Part 3: Anachronisms. The Book of Mormon contains numerous anachronisms, elements placed in the wrong historical period. An anachronism is the misplacement of a person, event, object, or custom within the timeline. One glaring issue is the claim that horses and chariots were used by Book of Mormon peoples. This presents multiple problems. Firstly, horses did not exist in the Americas during the time period described in the Book of Mormon. They went extinct in North America around 6,000 years ago, according to recent findings. This predates the supposed arrival of Book of Mormon peoples by thousands of years. Secondly, horses were not reintroduced to the Americas until the Spanish brought them over during the Columbian era in 1519, centuries after the Book of Mormon peoples would have already died out. How could they have had horses? Without horses, the presence of chariots also becomes problematic, but we'll delve into that issue separately. Fair LDS, along with their historians and leaders, assert that the Book of Mormon refers to tapirs instead of horses, suggesting that tapirs, being evolutionary cousins of modern horses, fit the description. However, this argument falls apart when you consider that a tapir looks nothing like a horse, not even remotely. The physical differences are stark and undeniable, making this claim implausible. In Ether 919, a list of animals includes asses. There were no such animals in the Americas until approximately April 1598, well after the Book of Mormon timeline. Elephants. Twice the Book of Mormon mentions elephants, claiming they were domesticated. Elephants never existed in the Americas. LDS apologists claim that the Book of Mormon's mention of curlums refers to mammoths, suggesting some mammoths were still around at the start of the Book of Mormon timeline. However, they conveniently omit a crucial fact. These mammoths lived on a remote island off the coast of Central America, isolated from human contact, and they went extinct about 4,300 years ago. This undermines their argument entirely. Another issue arises from Orson Pratt's statement, "Now to prepare them against these contingencies, and that they might have fresh air for the benefit of the elephants, curlums, or mammoths, and many other animals that perhaps were in them, as well as the human beings they contained. The Lord told them how to construct them in order to receive air, that when they were on the top of the water, whichever side up their vessels happened to be, it mattered not. They were so constructed that they could ride safely, though bottom upwards, and they could open their air holes that happened to be uppermost." Notice that Pratt states, "for the benefit of the elephants, curlums, or mammoths." He mentions both mammoths and elephants as separate species, contradicting the current narrative the Church promotes. Curlums and cumums. There are no known animals that match these descriptions. Apologists suggest they might be undiscovered animals or propose they could be llamas, tapirs, guanacos, alpacas, vicuñas, jaguars, or monkeys. However, they seem to be grasping at straws, especially since they already proposed tapirs as the stand-in for horses. See how issue after issue arises. Let's look at a few more anachronisms. Cattle and cows. These animals did not exist in the Americas until the Spanish brought them over in the 1500s. Apologists claim they could have been bison, mountain goats, or llamas. Wait, llamas? Didn't they suggest llamas for curlums too? Goats. Goats as we know them did not arrive until the 1500s with the Spanish. Apologists claim the Book of Mormon refers to deer. Wheat and barley, mentioned 28 times in the Book of Mormon, yet they did not arrive in the Americas until the Spanish brought them over. They are all Columbian-era items. Farm scholar Robert Bennett argues, research on this matter supports two possible explanations. First, the terms barley and wheat, as used in the Book of Mormon, may refer to certain other New World crop plants that were given Old World designations. And second, the terms may refer to genuine varieties of New World barley and wheat. For example, the Spanish called the fruit of the prickly pear cactus a fig, and emigrants from England called maize corn, an English term referring to grains in general. A similar practice may have been employed when Book of Mormon people encountered New World plant species for the first time. The argument from the church is that the people in the Book of Mormon, who lived long before the Spanish arrived, only knew the names of animals and crops by their European names. However, this explanation is highly implausible and lacks logical coherence. Let's consider a few more examples. Steelworking. The Book of Mormon describes swords, armor, bows, and other items made of steel. However, pre-Columbian civilizations only smelted copper and silver. They did not smelt iron or steel. There has never been an archaeological finding of iron or steel in Mesoamerica or North America as claimed in the Book of Mormon. Chariots and carts. While the wheel was invented in the Americas, it was never used for transportation. Archaeological findings include only children's toys and decorative art, not functional vehicles. The roads used by Mesoamerican and South American civilizations were too rough and uneven for carts or chariots. Silk. Silk was never present in the Americas before the Columbian period. The region had linen, but linen and silk are fundamentally different. Linen is plant-based, while silk is animal-based. The LDS Church claims the Spanish mistook linen for silk, but this doesn't explain why silk, not linen, is mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Silk was a rare and expensive material, making it highly unlikely that the Spanish confused it with linen. So how did silk end up in the Book of Mormon? It is quite mysterious that the Book of Mormon does not mention any known native flora and fauna. We see references to cows, horses, goats, and wheat, but there is no mention of llamas, bears, moose, deer, snakes, lizards, or crocodiles, nothing native to the Americas. Instead, we only see European animals, which Joseph Smith would have been familiar with. An interesting note concerns the swine pigs mentioned in the Book of Mormon. According to Jewish Mosaic law, pigs are not kosher and are forbidden to eat. Why would the Book of Mormon people bring an unclean animal to the Americas? Why would they partake in eating an unclean animal, breaking the laws of Moses? This inconsistency raises further questions about the authenticity of these claims. Conclusion. Joseph Smith initially envisioned the Book of Mormon's setting in the heartland and the eastern United States. However, following the release of John Lloyd Stevens' book on Mesoamerica, Smith adapted his views, aligning the Book of Mormon with the Mesoamerican region to better fit his evolving ideas and narrative. After Smith's death, subsequent church leaders embraced his revised stance, leading to the Mesoamerican model becoming more prominent and widely accepted than the Heartland model. I hope this video has provided you with new insights and a deeper understanding. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.